Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Marco Dure Show, everybody. It is Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025. Thanks for tuning in to today's show to hear all the relevant, groundbreaking news here in America and around the world. The only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow the show and share with whomever needs to hear the truth in our quest to unwoke America. And again, thanks to all those that have been doing that. I appreciate you so much. Hope everyone's been ready for the best hour, though, that radio has to offer. Uncensored and ready to go. You know, I've got a lot of solid articles for us to get into today, so let's not waste any time and jump right out of the chute with an article that I was discussing with you yesterday. Unfortunately, I ran out of time, and I had to kind of cut myself a little bit short, and I kind of wanted to review it again with everybody today. That way we're kind of on the same page with this. So this was from Reuters now, and on the matter of our, smaller farmers, our ranchers, I really want to kind of go over this and kind of explain to you what exactly is actually going on here. And I took I listened to some different people speak about this too yesterday, so I want to kind of bring you the best information about what's going on with this beef being imported from Argentina. Why is it important? And again, why is this bad for our ranchers, our local farmers? And why is Donald Trump receiving so much backlash about this decision that he seemed to have made? So one of the first things we have a problem with, the cost right now is actually turning a decent profit for many of our ranchers, many of our small farmers, whereas in years past, for example, they're lucky to even break even. So finally, even though the prices are up, we're seeing ranchers actually saving money, actually turning a profit. A very big thing for them. So again, this allows the farmer, the rancher, to be able to, like any other business, to reinvest in their operation versus what the powers that be want for the little guy, which again is to take out more loans, go further into debt, and eventually go bankrupt, was really the outcome. We've seen this since the 1970s. We had the, what was his name? Earl Butz, I believe, was he was in charge of the USDA at the time. He was the agricultural secretary. And his position was go big or go broke. And of course, the inflation that took place in the late 1970s, part of the 80s, put a lot of these small farmers out of business. It was absolutely horrible. But we have to understand something. If by flooding the market, this is the idea, Trump wants to bring more beef into the American food supply. If by flooding the market with cheaper beef prices, now America will continue now to lose these farmers and ranchers, right, who run these smaller operations. I was listening to a few ranchers speak on this yesterday. And again, when a rancher, a farmer, cannot create a profit, we're losing anywhere from 10 to 20,000 of these ranching operations, these farms, every year, roughly for like they were 5 to 6 years ago. It's a lot. It's a lot of small operations, local operations going out of business. And again, why is this happening? Well, we got to understand something. The average age for the American farmer now is 60 years old. So they're getting up there. And are they going to create any incentive for their children, for their family, for anyone else even, to take over that operation if it's not turning a better profit or a better quality of life for them? And again, the short answer to that is no. So they sell everything, right? They sell everything off. They sell the livestock that they currently have. And all you see now is empty barns. Again, it's not a good thing. We talk about America first. We should be talking about the little guy as well. That's my position on that. Anyway, here was President Trump yesterday speaking about it. Take a listen.
My question is, what do you have to say to U.S. farmers who feel that the deal is benefiting Argentina more than it is them, they are
Argentina's fighting for its life, young lady. You don't know anything about it. They're fighting for their life. Nothing's benefiting Argentina. They're fighting for their life. You understand what that means? They have no money. They have no anything. They're fighting so hard to survive. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. I think he's trying to do the best he can, but don't make it sound like they're doing great. They are dying. All right? They're dying.
What do you mean by a beef deal, sir?
We would buy some beef from Argentina. If we do that, that will bring our beef prices down. Because our groceries are down, our energy prices are down. I think we're going to have $2 gasoline pretty soon. We're getting close. And everything's down. The one thing that's kept up is beef. And if we buy some beef, now I'm not talking about that much from Argentina, it would help Argentina, which we consider a very good country, a very good ally.
Okay, so Argentina's a good ally. And apparently they're dying. Okay, first of all, I don't know why that's our fault. Is it our fault that Argentina's dying? They had mass inflation for so long, and I thought Melee brought it down. Apparently not. Apparently they're dying, folks. That's the new thing, I guess. I never knew that. I guess why we just invested, $20 billion in a currency swap with them? Why would we invest in a country that's dying? Because Trump likes the president? What the hell's that got to do with anything? Now, it's one thing to invest, but another thing, you're investing in a dying market, throwing American dollars down there? When we're broke, $37.6 trillion in debt? Just piss it right away, why don't we? By the way, a lot of this beef that's coming from Argentina, too, by the way. Foot and mouth disease is still very prevalent in Argentina, just so everyone's aware of that. And again, thanks to U.S. labeling laws, you don't really even know where sometimes your beef is being packaged and coming from. That is also a very big problem. But, Trump says they're a great ally, right? He said, great ally of ours. I like the guy. I want to save the country. Okay, so you're saving a failed state. All right, why don't you save one of the failed states in the United States? We have plenty of those. Here's the problem. They send the United States already roughly about $160-ish million worth of beef over the last 5 years, every single year. The figure itself was $801 million, importing that much beef in the United States. It's a big number, not something small. However, they've only accepted imports in that same 5-year time span of American beef into Argentina to the tune of $7 million. Now, that's obviously a massive trade deficit. Then you got to figure they have a 36% tariff on them right now that they export into the United States with. So now that goes back to what I was referring to, these trade deficits with other nations, folks. The trade deficit doesn't occur because Argentina is trying to rip us off. It's because they're simply not buying as much from us as we are buying from them. Why are we buying that much more from them? We don't need to do it. We simply don't need to do it. We import more than we export. Then we accuse them of ripping us off. And again, by the way, right now they're selling soybeans to China, and it's up now 91% year over year, to the tune of 1.17 million tons of soybeans a year. And by the way, China's refusing to buy our soybeans from us right now. They're trying to go from Brazil, now Argentina are the two biggest sellers that are shipping soybeans into China now. What a great ally, right? Yep, they won't buy our soybeans, but they'll sell to China. Wonderful, wonderful. So what's the answer to these lower beef prices? Donald Trump says he wants to get the beef prices lower. Okay, that's fine, right? Is there a way to do it while also looking out for the small farmer? And the answer to that is yes. What's that answer? You need to lower the cost of production, folks, for these farmers, these ranchers, from feed prices to anything that's necessary to maintain the barn, to water, to property costs, to electricity, everything. If you cut the cost of production down to make it more affordable for them to allow the process, then lowering the beef prices will not greatly affect them. Whereas if you just pull out the rug from under them. That's what I'm trying to make Donald Trump understand. You lower the cost of production. Now, earlier in the video I played for you, you said that the price of gas is going down. That's a positive thing. That's a good thing. $2 gas is good. Shipping your beef to market or shipping your product out will be more cost effective for that small farmer, that rancher. That's a good thing. That's what we want to see. So it's not so much you need to import Argentinian beef, but again, we should be looking out for the American farmer, the small farmer here, because he's talking about Argentina dying. Well, our small farmers, our ranchers are dying, folks. And that's something that's not a good thing. Do we want to rely on foreign nations for beef? chicken, poultry, fish, crops, vegetables, all that? I don't think so. I think we can do it just fine right here in our own backyard and do probably a much better job of it, I'd have to say, as well. So again, you motivate other people that want to get into this agricultural business as well when you put an incentive on the table. If there's no incentive, if there's nothing to look forward to, except for debt and bankruptcy, why would you do it? Why would you do it if you can't make a living? You have ample supply here in America. You don't need to rely on foreign imports. That just might, again, that's not saying you can't buy anything from Argentina. I'm not saying that. But why are you buying even more than $160 million worth of beef, importing in the United States when they're taking $7 million of ours? For the entire 5 years. They're sending in $801 million over the last 5 years. They took $7 million of ours. Then we talk about trade deficits. This is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the economy. We don't have trade deficits because people are ripping us off. We have trade deficits because we have stupid trade policies. The policy itself is stupid. It's okay. You say, okay, Argentina, you're only going to take 7 million of ours. Okay, we're only going to allow 7 million of beef imports into the United States. That's our quota. You want to take more of ours? We'll think about lifting ours too. We'll raise ours, should you want to do that. No, we're $160 million worth a year. They're taking $7 million for the entire time. It's just absurd. It's just absurd. Look at that trade deficit you got there. Again, the same thing happens with China. The same thing happens with any other nation we say is ripping us off, and we need tariffs now to solve the problem. Who do you think pays the tariff, folks? You know, Scott Bessent was on, is it Bessent or Bessent? I don't even know what his name is. I don't really care. He's on some podium. Someone says, is the tariff a tax on the American people? He goes, no, I don't want you to think a tariff is a tax. No, that's not what it is. Yes, it is. It is a tax. You are taxing them more to bring in the good. Someone's got to pay that difference. So either the company is going to have a 30% margin loss, and the consumer keeps the same price, or the consumer makes up that difference. And most of the time, it is that consumer that makes up that difference. That's why you're seeing higher prices. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. Oh, the tariffs are great. We brought in billions of dollars. Yeah, who do you think's paying for that? You and I are. At the grocery store, at the gas pump, anywhere. Now, not to be undone, by the way, Slay News has a great article saying there's a study now that links Bill Gates of hell's fake meat to a depression spike. Well, who would think eating fake food could cause depression, folks? I mean, come on. Yep, the synthetic alternative, Bill Gates-backed fake meat products, are now linked to a sharp rise in depression. So, hey, don't worry about it. The American farmer goes out of business. Instead of eating a real grass-fed steak that doesn't have, added hormones, antibiotics, like the COVID jab bumped into it, oh, you could eat the mRNA. That'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? That's another thing you got to look for on your labels. Make sure it's 100% grass-fed. It has to say 100%. Otherwise, they can screw you on that and actually have the cow eat God knows what and then, finish it off with grass. But you want grass-fed, 100% grass-fed. That's what the animal should be eating. And, again, no antibiotics, no hormones, none of this stuff pumped into the cattle. That's what you want. You want grade A meat. Organic, folks. Come on. We should be eating right in this country. And again, that will quell a lot of these health problems we continue to see. But now we've got the fake meat market coming in, which, again, seems to be crashing in front of us. But don't think they're not going to push this in this country. I'm surprised Trump didn't say anything about that. Oh, we have this problem with, the meat prices. Why don't we go to synthetic meats instead? Lab-grown meats. Delicious, right? It's absolutely disgusting. Now, the study confirmed that the hyper-processed fake meats caused by dangerous levels of inflation in the brain, by the way, are now leading to a severe neurological disorder that can trigger suicidal feelings. Thank you, Bill Gates of hell, for the, philanthropy and all that junk that you pretend to be a part of. By the way, he's one of the biggest vaccine pushers in the nation right now. And by the way, he's the biggest owner of farmland in America. Did you know that? Yeah, the computer nerd with a high school diploma is the biggest owner of farmland in this country. It's amazing, folks. I didn't know Bill knew anything about farming. No, what he wants is the best farmland, so he can grow his organic crops on that. Someone else will do it for him, of course. Probably one of you or I. That's what they'd love, by the way. A plant-based diet they're gaining traction, of course. Save the animals, save the climate. Don't eat meat, right? It's, the global warming, sea level rise, all that other nonsense they lie to you about. But Gates and his network of globalist green investors now have poured billions of dollars now into this ultra-processed lab-grown meat garbage. Insect-based proteins. I talked to you about that last week. It's disgusting. They use cricket powder in some things now. It's disgusting. Eating insects would cause cancer. Just inhumane, appalling garbage. It's disgusting. And again, the genetically engineered fake beef and chicken now that they're bringing to market and selling it as sustainable solutions to save the planet from climate change, of course. Even though they can't point to any examples where the climate is drastically out of control, or any sea level rises, or any uninhabitable places that were once habitable, folks. They can't do it. And again, I read you the article yesterday. Sea level changed, I think, in 100 years, 1.5 millimeters? Something ridiculous like that. Oh my God, so drastic. Yeah, I think it's funny too. I lived in LA for quite some time. I lived right by the beach. Never saw the sea level rise. You'd think the people of LA would say, you know what, maybe this isn't true. I'm looking at the beach every day. Doesn't change. Doesn't move. Doesn't go anywhere. Stays exactly the same. Wow. But, the hysteria, everyone looking down at their cell phones, they don't notice these things. So now we got this new research from Bill Gates of Hell's fake lab-grown meat that suggests actually that the product may be doing serious harm both mentally and physically to the people that consume it, all while Gates has advanced this long-term agenda to centralize control over the global food system. Never forget, this is part of their plan. This is their plan through and through. Control the food supply. This is what they want. And again, they control the food supply. They put their chemicals, their nonsense in it. They force you to eat a certain diet that causes you to become sick. They put you on their petrochemical industry that they're all a part of too, which they also make billions of dollars on. They tell you to get the vaccine, right, that Bill Gates has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in that he profits greatly from. Yep. This is their plan. Why not? Get everybody sick, get everyone loaded up on their food that they have to eat, screw the local farmers out, buy their land up for nice and cheap, pennies on the dollar, kick them off their land. And again, you eat your lab-grown meats. And then after a while, it's just lab-grown meats. They'll get rid of they'll keep the cows for themselves. They're not going to get rid of them. You think Bill Gates is going to eat bugs? Right? You think Bill Gates is going to bicycle around? Can even ride a bicycle? That dunce? I doubt it. But again, this is the future. This is what they want you to adapt to. This is what they want you to come around to. This is what they're trying to sell to you. Again, slow increments right now. They're not forcing you to, but they're just putting it out there, seeing who does it. Then a little bit of, commercial advertisements, a little here, a little there. Then all of a sudden, cricket sandwiches. Wonderful. That sounds good. Sickening. It really is. By the way, those who consumed these PBAs, these plant-based meat alternatives, is what they're calling it, have now faced a staggering 42% higher increased risk of depression, folks. Not good by any stretch of the imagination. By the way, they also showed elevated blood pressure, also not good, hypertension, so very bad for the heart, and higher C-reactive protein levels, which are key for inflammation. These are markers for inflammation in the body. Again, not good when you have inflammation in the body. Puts a very big strain on the vascular system, the heart, the brain, everywhere. So even though overall a nutrient diet intake includes, sodium, some sugar, obviously fats, you need proteins, and even though it's very similar between these groups, the plant-based meats, the people that eat this junk, display different immune and metabolic responses. How does your body respond to this fake lab-grown meat? And again, they're suggesting also that the damage also wasn't nutritional, but also biomechanical. So now the researchers have pointed out that the ultra-processed nature of these lab-grown meats are likely to cause these problems, this inflammation, right? They have to use things like emulsifiers, additives, preservatives to keep it in the packaging to make it look appealing to you. Again, also not good. You have brain-gut connection problems with this. The list goes on. But this is the position they want to put you in. And if they can take the little guy out, they can destroy the small farmer, this is the future they have for you. So while this explanation went further than I wanted to, I just wanted to share it to you. This is what they want for you. They want your body sick. They want you going back to the pharmacy on this pill, that pill, take this vaccine. Oh, you can't work. You got to go on disability now. Well, thank God you can live in your affordable housing unit that the government owns. Wonderful. Stay healthy, stay firm, get your exercise in, get your sun in, breathe fresh air, drink distilled water, take your supplements, high quality supplements. Don't take junk from China or elsewhere, covered with a shellac and God knows what else. But you need to keep your body strong, folks. You need to keep drinking half your body weight of fluid ounces a day. All these things are necessary. And again, you need to eat high quality, nutrient dense foods. That's where the organic grass-fed, 100% grass-fed beef comes from. The organic grass-fed, or I don't know, they don't, actually chickens don't eat grass. They eat a series of things. But you want pasture-raised chicken, pasture-raised eggs, right? Again, get organic when you can. And again, organic doesn't always mean great. You have to know how the animal's being harvested and what they eat and everything. But you don't want your animals eating soy, corn, all this junk. They should be eating what's in nature for them. Again, wild-caught salmon, not anything that has the food dyes in it or anything of the such. Things like that, folks. And again, stay away from pork. I always tell you that. Stay away from the pork. Even the World Health Organization says it causes cancer, so stay away from that. Pork products. I do turkey bacon instead of pork. It's not the best alternative, but it's much better. We're getting an organic version of turkey bacon that's lean, that's actually good for you to digest. So, knowing all that, why would you want to do something else? Why would you not want to keep your body strong and healthy? And again, when you move away from the synthetic, the food additives, the processed, ultra-processed foods, you'll see your body start to shift. You see your body strengthen. Your health conditions start to go away. So just food for thought, folks. Support your local farmers, okay? Do that over what you see in the grocery store sometimes. Or at least if you can't do it all the time, try to do it some of the time. Support your local farmer. Get to know them. And I guarantee you'll start to see your health turn around very, very quickly. I got to ask you this question, though. Moving on, I got to ask you this. This is important. Paul Craig Roberts, as you know, I value his opinion greatly. This article was on his website the other day. Who buried the investigation of Charlie Kirk's murder? We haven't heard anything about this in the news, have we? Nothing new. Nothing came out. Like the first 2-3 weeks, it was nonstop. It was rampant. We were learning about who this Tyler Robinson putz is. Again, I don't think he has anything to do with this, but we've learned nothing about this as of late. That's well over a month that this awful incident took place. We learned nothing new about it. It's like they gave us the original narrative and then just shut it right off. Oh, you hear something here and there, but it's nothing of any type of consideration that we should care about. But really, it's been a month and 10 days since this assassination of Charlie Kirk, and we still don't know anything factual about it. That's a problem. Now, the information or disinformation, however you want to call it, that has come out is completely nonsensical. Now, Andrew Colvett, that was his producer for his radio show, and also a spokesman for Turning Point USA, said that the doctor who examined Charlie Kirk was told that there was no exit wound. Now, I want to stop and tell you this. We're told that Charlie was shot with a .30-06 rifle. Round that came from the gun, right? Okay. Now, anyone that's looked at this round knows that it's pretty massive. It's about 3 inches long. It would be like the adult male's ring finger. That's how big this round is. It's huge. It's much bigger than a .556 or a .223. And, you know, we're told that the bullet was fired from a .30-06 rifle used by Tyler Robinson. Now, to me, this is an impossibility. For many reasons. Number one, a .30-06 probably would have left little of Charlie Kirk's neck or head in place than what we saw. And these are rounds that are used for grizzly bears, moose, elk, big game. Like over 1,000-pound animal that you're trying to take down when you're hunting. If it hit Charlie in the neck, why would the wound have been so small? But now they're telling you there's no exit wound. So you're saying that the bullet didn't go through him? And around that big? Again, I've watched it, folks. I've seen the footage of it. People shooting at, a watermelon from so many yards away. I mean, it'll just obliterate it. It'll make it disappear. It'll be gone. It'll blow it right up. You're telling me it hit him in the neck and nothing, it didn't even leave his body? Now, something's rotting in Denmark here, folks, and I really don't like it. Now, there is no evidence that the media reported or the FBI questioned that the attending doctors concerned for the report or anything about this exit wound. I don't understand this. No one has any questions about this? Now, again, you can do a quick internet search, reports that no bullet has been found. How's that possible? Now, I hate to tell you this, too. They've since developed over the site where Charlie was sitting that day in that open courtyard. They've totally paved over it. They've put new cement in. It's totally brand new. Moments after the murder, you saw people taking things down. It's a crime scene. Did anyone see any crime scene tape put up looking for where the bullet could have gone? No, they shoved Charlie in the back of a car and then drove off with him. Now, again, I understand, he was obviously hit with a bullet and he's bleeding out and you want to do something to save him. But they throw him in the backseat of a car and just take him somewhere? Who made that decision? Again, these are the questions I ask. Now, a suggestion is offered that perhaps it has been recovered, but the news media, of course, is being withheld from possibly due to the ongoing forensic processing or investigative sensitivity. That's what I've heard from some friends of mine as well. But after 40 days, are they still examining this bullet? I was told they didn't even do an autopsy on him. This is ridiculous. Now, the only possible thing that could be sensitive about the bullet is that it is not a .30-06 caliber. That would make a little bit more sense. Perhaps it didn't come from the roof. Perhaps it came from somewhere else. But that would change the entire narrative. You've already got it ingrained in your head. It's this Tyler Robinson, who's I don't even know what, a theater major, a left winger. Okay, so therefore the sirens in your brain go off. Oh, we got to hate this guy. And that he's dating a guy who dresses up like a dog sometimes, which is really awkward, of course. Really strange behavior. So right off the bat, you think, okay, makes sense. It's the usual suspect. It's, this freak. It's a left winger, indoctrinated, who hated Charlie Kirk, who took this rifle and committed murder. Assassinated him in cold blood. Paul Roberts goes on in this article and says that the bullet that blew out of the back of President Kennedy's skull managed to continue its magical path and caused 3 more wounds. It was allegedly found intact on the floor of President Kennedy's limousine. Now, it was a less powerful caliber than the .30-06 used to kill Charlie Kirk. However, the explanation handed out to the insouciant Americans is that Charlie Kirk was so strong that the bullet fragmented and just simply doesn't exist. Folks, I'm telling you today, that's a bunch of nonsense. They're saying that his neck bones were particularly strong. Okay, well then where's the bullet then? You should be able to extract the bullet from the body then. They haven't done that. So what does the evidence have to even try Tyler Robinson if there is no bullet? If you have no bullet to match ballistics with, the firearm. Again, theories of the fragmented bullet from the likely planted gun with no evidence that the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk was ever even fired from that rifle. You have no ballistics. Anyone could put an empty case in the receiver of a rifle or fire it into the air or ground and not eject the case. So this is all ridiculousness. There's nothing that links Robinson to the roof. We saw him allegedly jumping off, if that was even him. I don't even know if that was him. With no rifle. But then again, he finds the rifle afterwards and then assembles it again and then leaves it in a towel in a wooded area, then drives, I forgot how far away. I think he lived like 2.5 hours away to the south, at least. And, but later in that day, he was seen at a Dairy Queen getting food. An entirely different outfit too, by the way. So I guess he just, brought his entire wardrobe with him somehow, and he's got it packed in his backpack along with his firearm. It doesn't make any sense. Now, there's other reports that says that the doctor attending to Kirk said that he found the bullet under Kirk's neck skin. Again, this can't be correct if the bullet was a powerful 30-06, folks. I'm just telling you the truth. Two things cannot be true in this situation. There is no way that round would not have gone through him. Or at least, taken out a portion of his neck or his head. I hate to be graphic about it, but that's the truth. Now, as far as the available information goes, no one in the media, or the FBI for that matter, has even asked the doctor for the bullet or inquired if he found it. So it's business as usual, of course. Of course. So we have this, media that's customary to, again, dismissing anything that deviates away from the official narrative, and of course labels it as a conspiracy theory. They totally ignore it. So therefore they, those that intend to deceive us have the free hand in this. Why is the FBI not fully involved in this? Why have we not heard anything about this? I think we owe an explanation from our FBI why. First of all, somebody murdered Charlie Kirk that day. That's unequivocal. We know he was hit with a bullet, obviously, in the neck. Probably likely severing either his carotid artery or his subclavian artery. And of course, he bled out and died. Right in front of thousands of people, by the way, on a U.S. college campus. So why is Kash Patel not more further investigated in this case? I don't understand this. He needs to tell us whether or not they have the bullet, and if not, why. He needs to tell us if there was an exit wound or not, and if not, why. He needs to tell us if the man in brown on the stage is, or whether he has been questioned, and whether the video evidence of him directing Kirk's body into a private vehicle and driving off with it is valid. Who is he? Who are the guys making the hand gestures that day? Did that have anything to play into it? Were they questioned? And again, how about the people that were claiming to have shot him? I call them the original patsies. So the real killer can possibly get out. And again, evade anyone from paying attention to them. You know what else is interesting about this too? You're on a college campus. Every kid's got their camera out. They're recording it, obviously. Obviously, Charlie would record his events as well. That's not anything that's brand new. We don't have any other footage of this or anything of the crime scene. We have some footage. And again, I'm not saying that they have to plaster it all over the internet. But we should have pretty good evidence of what was happening on that stage that day. There were thousands of people there. Thousands of people that have different angles, different perspectives of what happened that day. They can't figure out if somebody on the stage had anything to do with it or was culpable in it. Was anybody questioning it? Why was there no caution tape? Why was the area not taped off? Why was it so quickly rebuilt over? A major crime scene, a major political figure in American politics, Charlie Kirk, murdered, assassinated. And yet there's no crime scene? There's no bullet? The area has been built over completely? It's totally rebuilt. Nobody says a damn thing about it. Now they're telling us there's no bullet. Really? There was no bullet? Does anyone believe this? Anyone that's a hunter listening, believe this. And again, Kash Patel's got to tell us, he needs to tell us how Tyler Robinson hid the murder weapon in the nearby woods when he jumped from a roof with no rifle in his possession. A rifle that size would have been sticking out of the backpack that the individual on the roof was carrying. That's just a matter of fact. I don't have all the answers to this. I wish I did. But I certainly have a lot of questions to this and how this is simply not adding up. Why are they burying the story so quickly? I'm not saying we shouldn't honor Charlie Kirk. Of course, I love the people that are speaking about him and speaking about him and everything and obviously remembering him. But I told you before, we need to have justice for Charlie. There is no justice for Charlie yet. You're pointing at a random individual saying, oh, it looks like this guy on camera. We don't have any footage. We still have no idea how, if it was on the roof, how this person got on the roof from an elevated position. Where did this bullet go? Did this kid even have proficiency in shooting a firearm? We have no answers to this. And nobody seems to be answering any questions. They seem to be content with the first narrative of the story that they want you to believe so much. Well, I'm not buying it. I don't buy it. I don't think you should buy it. I think we should be continuing to ask questions And again, we seem to be in this absence of a professional investigation with any type of objective reporting on really what happened that day. And again, it seems to be masked over Charlie's legacy, which again, I'm not saying we shouldn't acknowledge or understand, but there's so much, we need justice for Charlie. There's so much more we should be doing about this. And again, the right person needs to be held accountable. I don't buy for a second that it's this Tyler Robinson character at all. At all. Notice you didn't see him in court either, too. He was on at camera. God only knows if they even have him in custody. Yeah, really, it makes me wonder, folks. It really makes me wonder. So I wanted to go over that with you as well because, again, why are we not told about this? And again, we have every right to know about this. And there should be somebody or many peoples held accountable for this. Because, again, I doubt it was one person that day doing all this planning, plotting, and committing this horrific act that we all witnessed that took Charlie's life. Mamdani now is promising a clearer, cheaper New York City, but can he afford to pay for it? Asked the Wall Street Journal. Well, we pretty much know the answer to this, I think, folks, by now. Zoran Mamdani wants free childcare for New Yorkers. He wants a 4-year rent freeze for some 2 million residents. Buses without fares. He wants community-paid housing. $30 minimum wage. Who's going to pay for all this? This is the big question. I keep asking you this. I'm like a broken record. Who is going to pay for this? Mr. Mamdani, who's going to pay for this? He hasn't thought that part through yet. Of course, we're going to just pay 2% more taxes. Well, he says it with a big smile on his face. 2% more for the highest paying New Yorkers. That's it. Something tells me that's not going to work. Just a hunch. Now, the Democrat candidate in New York City's mayoral race, who seems to be leading in this race right now, will need billions of pounds, billions of dollars to kind of fund this entire campaign pledge that he's putting together, that he's selling to the dumbest New Yorkers out there. But he's far from certain that he can be able to deliver on this. I'm just going to say that to you. Free bus, free this, free that, free health care, no police, prostitutes galore. Decriminalize drugs, of course. You got to have everyone get high. There's no opportunity to do anything. You're living in a cesspool. Why not get high? Hey, who cares? Now, these just don't expect to buy a gun now. Remember, I told you that yesterday. Looking at people that are chronic drug users and, of course, marijuana smokers from being able to purchase a gun. Think about that, folks. Just think about that. Now, the city's mayor does not have the authority to increase taxes that Mamdani has proposed. And again, if elected, would Mamdani be able to persuade the state lawmakers, including those in the rural and suburban districts, to pass his tax plan? Probably not. But now there are critics of Mamdani, of course, including his rival, former governor Andy Slomo, who's hanging on by a thread here, says that his plans are misguided and doomed to fail, in part because Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul, also an idiot, by the way, opposes the increases for the 34-year-old now Assemblyman has touted for his mayoral campaign and his agenda for affordability, don't you know? Now, Mamdani, who is pretends he's a democratic socialist, that's a big word. He's taking a word out of Bernie's playbook. He's a democratic socialist. No, he's not. He's a communist. That's what he is. Everything he's proposing to you is communistic in and of itself. So what about this tax plan? Right? What about this tax plan? What is he going to do? Now, he says he wants to generate $9 billion in new tax revenue by raising New York City's wealthiest residents and businesses. He's going to call for a 2% increase on incomes, over $1 million, which would produce $4 billion in tax revenue. He wants to increase the state's corporate tax rate for everybody in the state to 11.5% to match New Jersey's as well, which generates about $5 billion. So he's got all the ideas how to tax you to death. He knows how to do that. Him and Bernie probably sat down. Well, let me tell you, you look at this, Zoran. You tax here, you tax there, you tax them again, and then you keep taxing. And after a while, you tax so much, you have $10 billion. You'll take that $10 billion, and you'll do a city-run program for everything. And if we can get that to work, everyone will clap. You'll get elected again. It'll be fantastic. Hey, that's Bernie for you, right? Bernie, good old Bernie Sanders. Yep. Raising tax on the wealthiest New Yorkers, New York City people. And of course, the corporation needs approval from the Democrat-controlled state legislature. And of course, Kathy Hochul, who we backstabbed by not endorsing her, who's up for re-election in 2026. Now, Hochul, who has endorsed Mamdani, says that she fears raising taxes for some of the wealthiest residents will cause them to leave New York City. Well, no kidding. They're already talking about this. City-run grocery stores, city-run buses, everything's free, right? Everything's wonderful. But of course, some Democrats are open to raising taxes. Well, you've never met a Democrat who doesn't want to raise taxes. That's their entire plan, folks, because they're communist. They're not Democrats, they're communist. We're not talking about a little small we're talking about massive tax increases on the people of New York. You can't make this stuff up. I want to play you a clip of his. By the way, this is Mamdani talking about his whole plan for community housing. Boy, does he have some plans for you. Take a listen to this. I'm going to play this for you right now. This is, you're not going to believe this. This is exactly what he wants to do. It's going to shock you, but you need to hear this.
Go further toward the Vienna model. We'll have to go beyond the market. We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership. We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing, ending subsidies for luxury housing development and using our wealth to build beautiful, high-quality social housing projects that offer good homes and strong communities to everyone. We won't decommodify housing overnight, but we know what we have to do, and we have history to guide us.
Okay, so what's he talking about here? Well, he's talking about slowly buying up the housing market on the private market and again convert it into state-run communes. This is really what it is. There's no other way to say it. But he wants to, he refers to this in this clip right here, and he talks about the Vienna model. And you're asking yourself, what the hell's the Vienna model? Well, I looked into it a little bit, of course. And of course, he's referring to Vienna, Austria. And really, the city itself currently manages a social housing program with approximately 420,000 housing units, inhabited by roughly 60% of Vienna's population. And the housing stock includes two types. There's two types of rental units. There's municipal housing estates, built and renovated and managed by the city, and subsidized housing built, renovated, and managed by nonprofit, think State Street, BlackRock, Vanguard, all those wonderful investment firms that are buying up single-family houses in America, or limited profit housing developers. So basically, here's the problem. And here's the end result, though. They're built, they're managed by the city. So the city owns the houses. The state runs the houses. You don't own anything. You just simply pay rent for your entire existence. That's all it is. Isn't it interesting, right? He wants to buy up this land. This is what he wants. And he wants the city to build. They own everything. And again, they'll get their wealthy investors to come in and make a profit off it, of course, as always. But again, it'll be state-run housing. So you have housing projects, really, is what it comes down to. One other thing he talks about, too, one of his other proposals, he keeps touting this, too. He talks about rent control. He says he wants a 4-year rent freeze. So that simply means that the landlord cannot increase the cost of rent for 4 years. So every year, 0% increase. Sounds good, right? Oh, my rent's not going to go for 4 years. Okay. Let's talk about why that can be a very bad thing, though. And again, New York City, highest rent control laws in the nation, aside from San Francisco, which are number 1 and number 2 for the highest housing in America. That's what it is. Isn't that interesting? A place where there's no freedom and supply and demand and gives the ability for contractors and developers to come in and build the necessary housing. You start to see higher prices. Not a shock. But anyways, here's the problem with rent control. It keeps rents below the free market levels, causing shortages. It gives the landlords an incentive to skimp out on maintenance, right? Not redo anything, not build or rebuild anything that needs to be fixed or anything. And of course, it reduces the incentive for people to build new housing. Why would you want to build new housing if you can't charge a rate in which you can upkeep the house or houses or the housing unit or the apartments or what have you, why would you want to get involved in that if you can't turn a buck from that? Again, it's a business. It's a market. That's what it is. So again, you have various polls from 90% of economists that believe that rent controls reduce the quantity, not only quantity, but also the quality of housing. So let's think to Mamdani's plan. He wants it to be the Vienna model, which again is, the city runs everything, the state runs everything, and they own it, right? And of course, no one's going to take advantage of it anymore, right? Everything will be hunky-dory. You'll be living in a palace for an ultra cheap price. That's what he's selling to you. Here's the problem. Rent controls create a very strong asymmetry between, obviously, current tenants, the ones that live there, and those that want to become tenants, the people that move into New York City. Now, this asymmetry is one of the biggest and strongest factors, again, in keeping rent control in place. People don't want to leave. They want to stay there. So they're constantly in this cycle where the landlord cannot raise the rent, under rent control laws, regulations. People who are already in their rent-controlled units typically get to stay there unless they refuse outright to pay the rent. And again, because of this rent control, it keeps the rent below that level that would equate supply and demand. There's actually a shortage and a very low vacancy rate. So that's why people, I can't find a place to live. Like, yeah, because people aren't building. They don't want to build in these areas where they have these high rent controls and regulations that would quell the supply and demand. That's what it would be. The market would fix itself out. So it doesn't bother the current tenants that live there. They already have a house to live in. They're the insiders. But rent control makes it very difficult for people who aren't from there or wanting to live in the city to become renters. That's the problem with all this. So this is what you're seeing from this. When he sells you this idea of a utopia that the state is just going to run everything, it'll be nice and cheap. We'll start to rebuild. It'll look fantastic. It'll look just like Vienna. It'll be beautiful. It'll be fantastic. Just know that it's never worked anywhere in the United States. And it's not going to work very much better in Vienna as well. So, simply not going to happen. It never worked. I mean, we've had housing projects here, have we? Yes, I think we have. We've seen that uptick since World War II. Are these areas bastions of paradises for everyone? Slim if ever. I have to say, slim if ever. They become dilapidated. They become, decadent. They're a drain on the community in many cases. Again, I'm just telling you the truth here. This is what happens when you get the government involved in housing. They simply destroy everything. That's why they shouldn't be in healthcare. Look what happens. They destroy everything. They have no business to be in any of it. It has nothing to do with the government. Let the market work itself out, folks. I know that sounds like a simple answer, but these policies enacted by the government, the local governments and the state governments, destroy everything. We don't need it. Oh, by the way, something really funny about this, too, this mayoral race here that we find ourselves in New York City. Thank God I don't live there. Among American-born New Yorkers, 40% said they'd go for Andrew Cuomo, 31% said they'd go for Zoran Mamdani, and 25% said they would vote for Curtis Sliwa. Now, among foreign-born New Yorkers, here we go, Zoran Mamdani gets 62%. Slow-mo gets 24%, and Sliwa gains 12%. Whew. Some numbers, huh, folks? So you see the problem here. You bring in the illegal aliens. This is why Mamdani is not going to cooperate with the Trump administration. These are his voters. This is his biggest voting bloc. Why would he get rid of them? It doesn't make any sense. Here's the thing that needs to happen. Again, I'm just going to say this again. I know people are going to get upset about this. Curtis Sliwa needs to drop out of this race. I know he's a Republican. I'm a Republican. We should all vote. He needs to get out of this race. Even Trump now is calling on Sliwa to get out of the race because he says he'd rather have a Democrat than a communist run New York City. And boy, is he right about that. Yep. New York's in a bind right now, folks. It's a tough bind, and who knows if they're going to get themselves out of it. Yep. Oh, by the way, too, I just do share this with you, too, about Vienna, the city of Vienna. Some of the highest cost of living, too, in the whole country of Austria. Gee, I wonder why. 60% of the people living in Vienna are on, these government housing programs, where it costs so much money to live, too, by the way. Anyways, let's get to something positive. Well, let's go over something positive. We know New York City is a mess. We might have a communist obviously become the mayor if things don't work out. That's not anything to look forward to. One of our biggest financial sectors is going to be run by a communist, a schmuck who's never run anything in his life. But he smiles when he talks, and everyone thinks that's fantastic. So there you go. You have stupid people voting for a communist, thinking that they're going to get something for nothing. Even though they're going to get nothing for a lot, is what is going to be the end outcome of that. The Gateway Pundit has an article that says Trump is now set to shatter deportation record by the end of 2025, with more than 2 million illegals removed thus far. Oh. What could this mean? Let's see what Dana Perino has to say about that.
Deportation numbers hitting record highs since President Trump's return to office. His administration booting more than 515,000 illegal migrants so far. 1.6 million illegals have left the country on their own, with immigration agents arresting 485,000. DHS saying that Trump is set to shatter the U.S. deportation record by the end of 2025.
Okay. Not bad, not great, but not bad. I mean, some people say, well, this is fantastic. We got, 515,000 illegal aliens deported. We have another 485,000 arrested. We have 1.6 leaving on their own. I go back, though, and I think to myself, in 1954, President Eisenhower enacted Operation Wetback. And what that was a big deportation campaign that removed just over, it was roughly about 1.1 to 1.3 million illegals in the case of a couple months. Now, think about this. This is 1954. What they did was they did a lot of border town sweeps, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and they would find people kind of in similar situations that we do today. They would try to check and see if people were citizens, and if they couldn't, they would simply deport them. Mostly back to Mexico. That was the main country of which they were deporting people. Now, at the time, the government of Mexico wanted the Mexicans that were living in the United States to come back to work on farm laborers. That's what they wanted. They needed it. And a lot of them had moved to the United States. And we saw, at the time, I think it was roughly, at that era, it was, 30,000 a year were coming to work in America, to work in American farms or begin farms. But you also had about 100,000 illegals coming into the country as well. So the government of Mexico actually wanted the United States to send some of these Mexican nationals back to Mexico. And again, they don't have any right to be here, so President Eisenhower fast-tracked this, and 1.3 million, I believe, over the course of a couple months. Now, we got to fast forward to 2025, though. Obviously, more illegal aliens are in the United States now, to the tune of probably 50 million people. And by the end of the year, we're only going to have 2 million of them deported. Most of them, obviously, are volunteering to go. Yeah. So we've got to ask ourselves this. Are we on track to even coming close to making an effect on this? Or are we going to have, what, by the time he leaves office, 42 million illegals living in the country? Obviously, President Trump's done a very good job of securing the southern border. I've always applauded him for that. That's fantastic. But there needs to be a better process to actually go in, to remove illegal aliens, to remove visa holders whose visas have expired, and deport them from the country. Now, I know some people listening are saying, well, that sounds mean. Everyone's we're all people, this and that. Listen, the idea, though, that we are a nation that is simply going to have a class of illegal aliens living in the country that have no right to be here, and then a nation of citizens is not going to work, folks. Nothing positive is going to come from that. And why would you want to exploit people that are here illegally to allow them to work under the table, to, again, not be able to open bank accounts, to always looking over their shoulder? That's not right. That's not right to exploit people, too. Now, I know Republicans love the cheap labor, and Democrats love the voting bloc. We know this. But we should not have two separate classes of Americans. We need to remain a nation of citizens in this country. That's what it needs to be. And again, while these numbers are increasing, I think it comes out to something like 1,700 people deported each day if we were going by the numbers that we have right now. These numbers need to uptick to the tune of probably 10 to 15,000 a day. If he wants to get even close to, again, removing just the people that came in during the Biden era. He's not even going to scratch the surface on that if he stay at the same rate. So while I applaud ICE, Border Patrol for what they do, the Department of Homeland Security, again, good numbers. They're not bad, but they need to increase. I'm just going to say that to you. I'm just going to be honest with you. They need to increase by a lot. Because we can't have a nation like this, where we have people that, again, come here illegally, they take jobs, they lower the wages, they wave their original country's flag, and then they expect us to bend over backwards for them. Simply not going to work. And we're seeing it not work. They've done a good thing by, again, going after the illegals who have criminal records, detaining them, deporting them. We're seeing those numbers increase. Again, very good. But it has to continue. You have to be a nation of laws. You have to be a nation of sovereignty. Otherwise, it's simply not going to uphold, folks. Simply won't uphold. Again, when the next Democratic administration comes in, they're going to open up those floodgates. They'll do everything they can. If there's no very secure border wall, which again, we need to get progress on that too. Are we going to finish the border wall? Are we going to make it more difficult to breach? What are we going to do on that? Is it going to stay in place? Or is it going to be wide open by the Biden administration again? So we got to ask ourselves the question. We have to think ahead, folks. So while 2 million sounds very good, at least 2 million by the end of this year, those numbers need to uptick by a lot. Bill Clinton, in his tenure, removed 11 million. You're telling us 30 years later we can't get more than that? With the resources we've allocated for this? It's got to increase by a lot more. Just thought I would share that to you. Anyway, that's something positive, though. Something positive to look forward to. Something negative to look forward to, unfortunately. Sadly enough. It's unfortunate. This is in Breitbart. It says Wikipedia Enforcement Committee site Code of Conduct said should ban Bible verses opposing homosexuality. Yeah, in Poland, Polish Wikipedia editor earlier this year complained about religious discrimination to a committee that enforces the Code of Conduct imposed by the Wikimedia Foundation that owns Wikipedia. The editor expressed opposition to the LGBTQXYZWTUV plus minus negative sign ideology, citing Bible verses Romans 1:27, condemning homosexuality in his profile on Discord Wikipedia group chats, prompting mockery and insults from others. Members of the committee rejected his claims and suggested instead the Bible verses were a violation. So why do I read this to you? Well, because of a couple things. Number one, they want to get rid of the Bible. That's number one. They don't like the Bible. They don't like Christianity. They certainly don't like Christian values. And if we don't stand up for the foundation of Western civilization, which again is Christianity, I don't care what anybody says. So people say, well, the nation wasn't really a Christian nation. Yes, it was. It was founded on Christian values. The West is founded on Christian values. It's very important to uphold those Christian values because then you have no nation. You lose the entire fabric of the society. So now we have the Universal Code of Conduct imposed by this foundation, applies to sites owned by the foundation, including Wikipedia, along with related events and foundation staffs themselves. Plans for the Code of Conduct were first announced in 2020, prompting significant concern about the intervention in the normally self-governing community. So now they're coming after people who are quoting Bible verses because now they view it as a threat to things they believe in. I don't know what more to say about this. So it's okay to be for something but not against something? Anyone telling you free speech isn't dead in Europe is lying to you, folks. And it's only a matter of time before it comes here, too, as well, if we don't stay vigilant on all these issues. You're already trying to say that the Bible verses are anti-Semitic in this country. So, again, always got to keep your eye on what they're talking about here and how you can apply our religion, which is Christianity, by and large, in this country. Folks, thank you for being here as always. Share the show with some friends, and I'll see you tomorrow here on the next Marco Jure Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, and God bless.